For 8 centuries, Rome was the untouchable center of the world. Then, a Germanic army called the Visigoths broke through the gates. The physical devastation was absolute. The invaders looted the wealthiest villas and burned the very political heart of the empire to the ground. For the average Roman citizen, this defeat felt like an apocalyptic collapse. It sent a massive psychological shockwave across every province. When a society experiences a trauma this severe, they don't immediately look for rebuilding plans. Instead, they look for someone to blame. The pagan establishment pointed their fingers directly at the Christians. They argued that because the empire recently abandoned its ancient religion, supreme deities like Jupiter, the king of their traditional gods, had withdrawn their protection. Traditional Roman religion was highly transactional. You quite literally paid the gods in blood and animal sacrifices, and in exchange, they guaranteed military victories and absolute peace. Over in North Africa, a bishop named Augustine of Hippo saw this narrative gaining traction. He realized this blame game threatened the survival of his faith. To counter the accusations, he sat down and wrote The City of God. It is a massive courtroom defense designed to completely dismantle the pagan argument, point by point. Augustine's first piece of evidence zeroes in on a strange anomaly during the invasion, the mercy the enemy displayed. The invading Goths, who were ruthless everywhere else, deliberately stopped their slaughter at the steps of the Christian basilicas. Anyone who fled inside these massive architectural sanctuaries was allowed to live. Augustine contrasts this directly with ancient history. When the Greeks sacked Troy, the pagan gods completely failed to protect their own altars, and worshippers were slaughtered right inside the temples. The irony is sharp. The exact religion the pagans blamed for the invasion was the sole reason any of them survived it. Next, Augustine opens the history books. This is a chronological timeline mapping Roman disasters, anchoring at 410 AD and extending backwards to fact-check the claim that the ancient gods kept the city safe. Look at the Gallic sack of Rome centuries earlier. The city was almost entirely burned, and this happened while paganism was the undisputed official state religion. Then consider the horrific Roman civil wars. Citizens slaughtered each other in the streets, generating a body count that easily eclipsed foreign invasions. During all of those catastrophic physical disasters, the altars of the pagan gods were smoking with daily authorized sacrifices. A war god like Mars failed to prevent civil slaughter, even when his followers paid their dues. Augustine proves the pagans are suffering from selective memory. Their gods never provided a magical shield against disaster, even when the transactional payments were made in full. Having dismantled the idea of physical protection, Augustine pivots. He asks a much deeper question. Did these gods keep the city's soul safe? His answer is a definitive no. Augustine argues that the pagan deities actively encouraged cruelty and lust through their obscene myths and the violent spectacles hosted in these massive amphitheaters. They expose their true motive. They are using Christians as a convenient scapegoat because they desperately want to return to their unrestrained, luxurious vice without feeling guilty about it. Rome's collapse was the result of long-standing moral bankruptcy and internal rot. Augustine then offers a complete reframing of history itself. He asserts that earthly success is never a permanent right. It is strictly a temporary condition. He explains that expanding territories, ruling monarchs, and immense wealth are granted by the providence of the one true God, often functioning as a temporary reward for civic virtue. The harsh historical truth is that all human empires eventually buckle under the crushing weight of their own arrogance. The city's collapse followed the universal law that all earthly power is inherently fragile and fleeting. This pagan blame game forced Augustine to completely separate the fate of the state from the fate of the human spirit. He introduces the concept of the city of God. He defines this as a spiritual community built entirely on truth, justice, and eternity. He contrasts this with the city of man, a society driven purely by the lust for domination and strictly bound by time to eventually collapse. While Rome's physical walls crumbled, Augustine's defense laid an intellectual foundation that would shape the Western understanding of history for thousands of years.